Hello Sainers, and welcome back to another edition of the OPPO View. My name's Jayden. As you're aware, what we do here is go through the opposition for this coming round, see what they do, see what they don't do, see what we can do to expose them, and see what we can do as well to get the 4 points. I think last week I called Collingwood. They struggled a lot transitioning the ball from defence to forward. Evident on Thursday night, we organised a lot of turnovers through there, and then that was sort of the key takeaway as to why we won the game against the Pies, which is a really good performance, by the way. But let's turn our attention to Saturday afternoon, evening, twilight time, which is awful time slot, against the Bombers at Marvel Stadium. Should be a cracking game. There's been a lot of media speculation surrounding a few players, and we'll go into that just a little bit and dissect what that means for us. But first, I just want to go through what Essendon do, again, what we can do to expose them, how we can win the game, and then some key matchups that we need to look forward to get the chocolates. So Essendon, they play a really, I don't want to say a fast brand because they don't, but they're very structured in the way they play. So when the ball does go forward, and they like to push up a lot from a whole team perspective. So you'll see the likes of Mackay and Heppel and those defensive pockets and fullback really push up the ground to really shrink the forward line and make it really, really hard for then the opposition to get out on the rebound. Now, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is if it works, then you're really restricting the ball movement of the other team. The fact is, the last 2 weeks against the Hawks and the Swans, that's where they're getting burnt. And I don't think they have the leaders and the skilled players to be able to do that efficiently for 4 quarters. And I think that's really something that we can look into to really get the Jets on, keep the ball moving, going forward, to then really expose that defence and allow the likes of Higgins, Butler should be back, Sharman, Membry, all those sort of players to get out the back and really convert from really inside the V, and make sure that we can get some easy scores nice and quickly. Against the Swans, I thought they held up really well. It was a massive emphasis, and with Peter Wright being suspended as well, they wanted to be physical, and they were. They were really physical in the contest. They were plus 10 in clearances, which is an area that I think they really exposed the Swans, and I don't want to harp on them too much. And I think our midfield dynamic is a lot different to what the Swans was. So the likes of McGrath, Perkins, Martin at times, Darcy Parish, I think, may be returning this week. They really dominated against a smaller Swans midfield. Whereas if you look at ours, and I think that was something that we really addressed heading into Collingwood, our midfield's a lot more inside mids, and really contest focused. I think Jack Steele looks to be returning back to his All-Australian form. Adding Jack Sinclair didn't look all the best last week, but again, first game back from a calf, you sort of expect that. He had some flashes of what he can do. Seb Ross had a stellar game last week, shut down the goalie, but also really dominated himself as well, and inserting himself into the game, which is what we want. And then you got pinch hitters like Filippo. Windhager had a great game last week, and with the news that Crouch is out for over a month now, expect Windhager to be a set piece of that midfield group. The only concern I have with the Bombers, and it's sort of like the concern that majority of the teams that play them will have, is their dominance in that midfield with the ruck. Now they've got 2 really, really strong ruckmen, Goldstein and Draper. Grundy, I thought, did a really good job last week, but it's going to be a tough ask for Marshall. He got, from a hit-out perspective, really dominated by the Collingwood rucks. But then his work at ground level was a completely different story. So if it's a situation like that again, I'm happy to lose the hit-outs by 25. That doesn't bother me. That's just, whoever gets their hand to the ball first and whatever. It's what happens next where that's going to be the key. Now, I think he had 8 or 9 clearances last week. If he can do that again, then that's fine. That breaks even, and then allows our outside mids to get on the ball, get it first hand and get it forward, which is really exciting. And it makes it a lot easier to get good looks at goals for that one. Another thing that Essendon do like to do is coming out of defensive 50. So as I said, when they go forward, they like to push up really, really deep. When they come out of defensive 50, it's a clearing kick nearly every time. They don't like handballing it out because I feel like they don't trust their hand skills. And they're really, paranoid about turnovers, which fits us perfectly. That suits our game. We like to press hard. We like to, get 2-3 players to the ball. I think that was something that we really addressed against Collingwood again. And we were really able to expose, there was multiple efforts, and it wasn't just one or two. It was, 3, 4, 5 efforts from multiple guys, especially that midfield group, that was able to then, create the turnover and then create the opportunity going the other way. So do that again. We're in a really strong chance, a really good position to break the game loose. Going through the midfield, they do like to get it in the hands of their, McGrath, Merritt, Nick Martin, has had a really good start to the year. Archie Perkins has been good. Will Setterfield on the wing, who I'm going to touch on in a second, is really, really critical to how they play. But they like to travel through the middle of the ground through hands. And they don't like to sort of change the angles. So depending on where the ball is and where their sort of momentum's going, they'll stay in a straight line. Some people like to refer to that as like railway tracks, but they don't like to go off course at all. That's something that we can really expose defensively. We're the best defensive team in the competition at the moment. We were for last year as well. I think our team defense is really, really strong. And, that ability to then hunt down the player and, create the turnovers only works into our favour. So I think that's something that we can really expose going forward. From a forward line perspective, Peter Wright being out, absolutely huge for us. I know we lost Max King, but Peter Wright, I think, is a really underrated player. So then it allows probably Zane Cordy to go to Kyle Langford. Kyle Langford's a really good forward. I think he's very underrated. His ability and agility on the ground, but also to take a mark above head, create the, first chance opportunity for the small forwards, is really important for them. So expect Cordy to go to Kyle Langford for that one. Just want to touch on some key stats that I've noticed so far this year. Currently ranked 14th in contested possessions, which isn't a great result. As I said, they looked really good last week, but against a smaller run with tight midfield of Sydney Swans, which I think is something that we can expose. Turnovers for us, for them as well, is in the bottom half of the competition. So again, given that that's our game style and that's how we like to play, I think that's something that we can expose for them to create some really good scoring opportunities. Key matchups, as I mentioned, no Wright, which is massive, allows our defence just to be a little bit more comfortable. I think their height may have been a little bit of a scare with Langford, Goldstein or Draper going forward, Peter Wright, that's 3 pretty big tools. So it sort of gives us a little bit more leverage. I expect Windhager to go to Merritt. The job he did on Nick Dacos last week was absolutely phenomenal. Not only did he shut down Nick Dacos and his importance and influence on the game, but he also dominated the game as well. And that's the difference between an okay midfielder and a really good special talent. If he can, again, shut down Merritt, and you're not going to see Merritt get 10 disposals, he's too good for that. But if he can shut him down and get him 20 and they're all in the back half, and get 20 himself. I think he had 6 centre clearance possessions on Thursday night as well. They're all things that are going to help and create a really good opportunity for us to win the game. Another interesting matchup that I've got, as I mentioned earlier, Hill versus Setterfield. Now, you might think, that's a little bit, strange matchup on the wing. It's not really that important. For this game, I think it is. Will Setterfield, I'm just looking at my notes here. So Setterfield averages 27 disposals, gets 14 contested possessions, which is high for a wingman, nearly 8 clearances a game, and averages just between sort of 4 to 450 metres per game. That's huge numbers for a wingman. Really big on Hill to be able to minimise that influence, but also expose that on the other side as well and get running. He looked a lot better at the MCG with the open space. So I think that's something that he'll look forward to and sort of embrace that competition and that challenge as well. And as I mentioned as well earlier, the ruck contest, I think it's a big game for Marshall. I don't think he's under any sort of, position influence or, really under pressure for his spot. But I think it's a really big game against two. I think they're individually good ruckmen, but together they're really good. So something that he can sort of look to have a challenge with and see what he can do. Again, it's not about the hit out numbers. That's nearly irrelevant. It's all about the impact around the ground. I would look to see him try and take him forward a little bit, especially goals seen, I think, by the end of the games. He is looking a little bit tired. He's, 35, 36 years of age. So any advantage he can get by taking them forward, especially with King out, I think it's going to be a massive effort. So, as I said, limit their transition. They like to push forward hard, create a lot of scores off turnovers, and we should look to see the 4 points heading our way with 2 wins in a row. So get down on Saturday afternoon, as I said, twilight game at Marvel Stadium. It's going to be a big crowd. Get there, and let's see the Saints win. Go Saints.